was just chilling here at the bonfire, but we're now going to continue towards the, well, I got caught on a rock, but we're going to continue toward the first bell of awakening, as the armored man and the crestfallen warrior told us to. Oh, the terrain got in my way there, else that would have been able to be a riposte. I'm not sure where that guy's attacking. Let's see if we can get it on this guy. There we go. We have fire bombs coming after us, but they can't reach after a certain point. Except that point was not one of them. So Firelink Shrine is not nearly as much of a hub in this game as, say, the Nexus was in Demon's Souls, but we still will be getting very acquainted with it in the future. Especially helpful is the very unique fact that Firelink gives you 10 Estus for sitting at it instead of the usual bonfire standard of 5. Let's see if I can't get this guy to come attack me. There we go. Well, with the enemies cleared, let's hopefully, actually, now that I see that, I completely forgot to talk to another NPC, so forgive me. She's just right down these stairs. And no response, she cannot speak. We can't talk to her, but she has the option to reinforce our Estus flask, which we're now told we need a Firekeeper's soul to do. So yeah, it's good just to make sure that I show her off that she's there, and she will most likely serve a purpose later. Who knows, though? I certainly don't. Okay, and now with the enemies cleared, we can get our special item right there. I've done that jump dozens of times, and yet every time I always assume that I won't make it. A Ring of Sacrifice. What a Ring of Sacrifice does is this mystical ring was created in a sacrificial rite of Velka, the goddess of sin. Its wearer will lose nothing upon death, but the ring itself breaks. So it's a one-time use item to not lose your souls and leave them at your bloodstain when you die. Which sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. Here's that waterway that, there's pretty lights in a giant tree, but here's that waterway that we heard about. Rats have a very large chance to drop a humanity, so I'm always hoping when I kill one for a drop, but never seem to get it. Another gate that doesn't open from this side, so we're gonna have to go here now. Into the Undead Burg. Tried to be fancy without moving, and tried to be fancy by parrying again, but I'll just backstab. It's the easier option, but it's the one I'm best at. Kinda goes hand in hand, I suppose. One of the best things about the Souls series, but the Dark Souls in general, is how many neat little tips and tricks there are just already at this point in the very beginning of the game. For example, crashing through those barrels and rolling down here to get a few items because there aren't any railings blocking us from doing so. Looks like a road down there. Now the astute viewer going very slowly through this game might see those enemies hanging off the side of the wall right there, suspiciously next to a lootable item. And since we were so eagle-eyed, certainly the game will now reward us with the ability to loot the item without any fighting. Oh no, it's just a literal pile of rubbish, okay. Well, it was still nice. And that's a pretty good reward for making it through that. But interestingly, let's see if I can do this. You can actually just entirely skip that route and jump like that to get the humanity and then roll back down if you didn't feel like dealing with the dregs. Not sure if they're called dregs, actually. I think they might just be called hollows. It may take away from the dramatic moment that is about to happen, but I also want to show just a silly thing right here. So that large dragon, or I suppose it's a wyvern or a drake, typically when you're running down this path, it will land and your character will stumble as a result of his landing. But if you're holding up your shield, the animation is shortened by a lot, making you able to just walk right through them. Just a silly minor thing, but it's something I always do when I play. Whoops. Cracked around shield, definitely did not need that. I'll deal with you in a moment, Archer. Or crossbowman. I'm not sure if I remembered to talk about the bleed effect during the first boss. I don't believe I did. If I were to look at my current weapon right now, I would see that it has a bleed stat of 300. And bleed works differently in Demon Souls. It was just you put a damage over time effect on the enemy that would slowly tick away at their health. How bleed works in this game is you build up an invisible meter on the enemy, and once that meter fills out, there's a big gush of blood from the enemy, and then they take a lot of damage at once. So you're sort of, with every attack, you're kind of building up another big attack if you can keep hits on them without pausing it for a long time between them, and I really like that. I almost regretted that dodge greatly. Alright, and we are about to get our main weapon for quite some time, the Uchigatana. See if I can't provoke this enemy to attack. Oh, come on now. Oh, I forgot one. Attack too soon. Come on, I want to parry you. Even with the assistance of my shield, it sounded like a plane taking off. Even with the assistance of my shield, parrying is immensely satisfying.
Well now, you seem to have your wits about you, hmm? Then you are a welcome customer. I trade for souls. Everything's for sale.
So here's our first vendor. He sells repair powder, which equips your weapon if it breaks, but durability is not that big a deal in this game. Throwing knife, firebomb, Lloyd's talismans, and orange guided soapstone, which lets you write, view, and rate messages. You can view messages regardless. I'm not quite sure why it says that. It just lets you write them and rate them. He sells a residence key for 1,000 souls, which opens up a residence in the Undead Burg. A repair box, which lets you repair without being at a vendor or a blacksmith, and a bottomless box, which allows you to store items at bonfires, and a whole range of weapons and shields that we're not going to bother with, as well as armor that we're also not going to bother with.
Things are getting treacherous in these parts. A horrible goat demon has moved in below, and up above there's that humongous drake and a bull demon too. If you stick around this place, it might end up being your grave. Here, I'm not here to chit-chat. We talk business or we talk nothing at all. Here, I'm not here to chit-chat. We talk business.
Well, he's not the kindest NPC, but I definitely don't mind him.
What a waste of time. Go and fall off a cliff.
Even after that, which is why it gives me no pleasure to do this.
It's gone mad. Why me? Little Julia.
And he dropped the residence key, a humanity, and the orange guidance soapstone, but on his body is the coveted, by me, Uchikatana. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the stats to wield it in one hand, so if I were to attack anyone while holding it without two-handing it, it would do very little damage, and also I can't even attack at all with it. I forgot that Dark Souls did that. The other Souls games do not do that. I think also equipping this makes me medium roll. Once again, Dark Souls is the only game that has a dodge roll system with 3 tiers, which is a fast roll, which I've been doing up until this point, and then a medium roll, which is that, and then the fat roll that all games have. So let's continue down this way and see what we got. I thought there would be an enemy there. Memory playing tricks on me. I was hoping I would get both of them. I love that move. That's the two-handed R2 or strong attack. Also, I'm medium rolling now, but I will not be medium rolling for long. 10 throwing knives is not the best reward, and that's back to the bonfire where we were. But there's another area we can explore, which will lead us to another item that I don't exactly want, but it still need to show off, excuse me. And that's where we picked up the humanity. Well, that was just poorly aimed all around. Did not want to fight that many enemies there. They do drop 72 souls, which is, not quite something I'm super interested in grinding out or anything. Alright, leveling up, we will now we need a total of 14 strength to wield the Uchikatana in one hand, which is unfortunate, because we're just short. I did not see how many souls I needed to get in order to level up, but I'm gonna assume we're pretty safe at 1,000, so that's what I'm gonna work towards. Which shouldn't take too long, especially killing the spear soldiers right over here. I forgot about that again. once again, I forgot that even riposte do less damage if you're not qualified to wield the weapon. And there's 1,000. I'm sure we can level up now. In order to get the most out of our weapon. And 14, perfect. Now there's no X, and the silhouette of the Uchigatana is no longer in shadow, but before we go, I want to, well, I want to be able to light roll like that, so taking off our helmet and our chest piece, but we look awful, so let's reverse our hollowing. I believe Humanity Restored on the PS3 version and the original release said, "You revived to human." And now we are back to being our extremely burly musculature selves. I went through all of that trouble to be able to use the katana one-handed. But I usually prefer to be two-handed anyway. Alrighty, well, let's continue into uncharted territory. Alright, that's why I was able to use it. That's why I wanted to be able to use the Uchigatana in one hand. Once again, does not open from this side. Because the Uchigatana does more damage the higher your dexterity stat is in the beginning of the game. With 16 dexterity, I believe we have, it does a lot of damage, especially when two-handing it. These guys up here that were throwing the bombs, and see what they were guarding. A soul item. I would be guarding that too. Now I believe there's a way to get onto this balcony here where you just jump, but there's nothing up there, so we won't be doing it. Right here is our first example. Well, we have the residence key, which unlocks this door. But if we didn't, if we decided to ignore that merchant completely, or we missed him on our first playthrough, we would be able to open up this door all the same because of the master key, which our thief class started with. In this chest is an item that's invaluable for the first boss, which is gold pine resin, which buffs your weapon. Similar to the sticky white stuff of Demon Souls. Come on, buddy. Oh good, I was worried that the stairs wouldn't let me riposte there. The way up to the first boss is to the left up these stairs, but we're gonna go down and see what's going on. And I'm going to try something that I'll probably regret. What did I tell ya? I am going to regret this. These Black Knights are really tough enemies that do not respawn when you defeat them. I think that was kind of unfair. backstabs on these guys, I've always felt that dodging into them is a lot more beneficial. Except for when they keep doing that move over and over again. Which also is my general advice for anyone who's having trouble in Bloodborne, is just dodge into the boss or the enemy that you're having trouble with. Because most enemies have a plan of attack if you jump back, but not all of them can reach you very easily if you jump into them. Let's get it with a riposte, come on. Well, that's sad. About to be even sadder if I don't heal up. No! Okay, I just healed enough. Wow, I lucked out. Just the frames on my heal were just ever so ahead of the damage I took. And he dropped a Titanite chunk item, which is a upgrade material for a tier of weapon that we're not going to reach for quite some time. But it'll be good to have for sure. Let's see what he was guarding down here. Must be something very important. And it is a blue tearstone ring, which is a ring that boosts defense when HP is low. I'm not sure what the threshold is for that. It's probably, if I had to guess, 25% or something like that. If not even lower, 20 or 15, but might as well equip it since we have no other rings anyway. Now we only have 2 Estus flasks, so I'm going to run back to the bonfire really quickly just to refill those up, because we are going to be taking on a boss next. And I want as much help for that as I can get. That's kind of silly how I was talking in the previous video about how I don't want to be offline, but it's not like I'm going to try to PvP or anything. The only reason, and I was thinking about that and I realized the only reason I wanted to be online was so I could see the silly messages that people post. That's hugely one of my favorite things about the Souls series. I have to admit that things are a little bit more tame in this game, only because the message system is not as robust as it is in later iterations, but they still can be very funny. Not to mention the fact that this game spawned probably the most popular joke message of the entire series, which is Great Chest Ahead, or Marvelous Chest Ahead, something like that. Well, 2 down is better, but now I'm in a corner. That worked out well. They didn't really want to block, so every time I watch a speedrun for this game, they do this amazing trick right here that I've never been able to do. And still to this day, they use the invulnerability frames to their advantage, and they just got dodge roll completely through that barrel. So I had to, there's a Titanite shard, that's what we use to upgrade our lowest tier of equipment, so I had to decide if I wanted to try to go for that, if I wanted to just trigger the barrel falling down and then hide in the other set of stairs, but I thought I'd go for it for a very fun moment, but didn't quite work out, but that's okay. Sometimes things don't work out. Crystal lizards look different, but they're very much the same as they were in Demon's Souls. Unfortunately, going through this fog door, we we can't go back out. It doesn't dissipate. But before we press on, I'm gonna climb up this ladder and take care of these two archers because they are a pain in the butt. Okay, now let's go ahead and, well, actually, really quickly equip our gold pine resin, and then make a jolly stroll down the rampart. Here's the bull demon that the merchant was talking about. And here's the gold pine resin helping for the boss that I was talking about. And there's our first boss of the main game defeated. A combination of the gold pine resin and the Uchi katana make that fight kind of a joke, especially if you decide to use the start the fight off way to your advantage by dropping down from the top of that tower with said weapon and buffs. That's a very annoying noise.
You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time. Oh, aha. So I didn't scare you. I have a proposition, if you have a moment. The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined. In a land brimming with hollows, could that really be mere chance? So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey? This pleases me greatly. Well then, take this. We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact. But use this to summon one another as spirits, cross the gaps between the worlds, and engage in jolly cooperation. Of course, we are not the only ones engaged in this, but I am a warrior of the sun. Spot my summon signature easily by its brilliant aura. If you miss it, you must be blind. Oh, hello there. I will stay behind to gaze at the sun. The sun is a wondrous body, like a magnificent father. If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
Solaire of Astora, easily the most popular character in the entire franchise, and deservedly so in my opinion. Good, our lightning buff wore off. I would be amazed if it was still going on for that long. I think it only lasts 60-ish seconds. A lot of very, very iconic moments from that conversation, other than him being himself. Jolly cooperation, grossly incandescent, has it all. Everything that people like to quote. Now, this wyvern coming back to breathe fire down on the bridge is something that's actually not that unfair. It's definitely more unfair. It's unfair to a first player for sure. There's almost no way they'll avoid it, because what are you supposed to know? The charred marks on the ground, I suppose. That's not really a very quick indicator, but it's helped a lot by the fact that the first time the dragon does that flyover, the fire damage it does, I believe, is greatly reduced, meaning that you won't necessarily die, but I still wanted to avoid the damage regardless. And we are going to run head on without fear, because he does not start breathing until you cross the halfway point. Breathing fire, that is. I believe he's breathing in general. Alright, now we're safe and down here, even though we aggroed those guys up there, but that's fine. Going down these steps and kicking down this ladder, and then not caring about the ladder that we kicked down on the descent part. We are now right back here, in one of many really impressive shortcuts that this game offers. So we have a lot of souls, so let's level that up. I'm gonna round out my vitality to 10 and then pump up my endurance. Because the more endurance you have, the more you can sprint, and the more you can dodge roll, and the more you can attack, and all of those are things that I very much enjoy. Thank you for watching, and we will see what lies beyond the Taurus demon in the next video.